everyone, it's Adam here. I wanted to spend a moment today, if I may, to build the case for restorative practices in your school. For me, I think there are three main outcomes that we get from restorative practices that I believe are the most empowering and enabling outcomes that we can aspire for in schools. But to do it, we've got to go deep. We've got to go hard. We've got to be fair dinkum about the way that we're focusing on building culture and building better relationships with and for our students. Those outcomes are: number one, I believe that what we get is committed teachers. Now, our teachers have always been really dedicated to their craft, and it's been easy to describe them that way. But what restorative practices does is it allows us to have a framework for drawing out those really innate factors, those really strong characteristics that we know impact students' learning, in the most productive way. I've always been a big fan of Bill Glass's work, and he said that when you study great teachers, you'll learn more from their caring and their hard work than you will from their style. And I think that's a really important message for us to take on. The second thing I think we get is we get caring students. And boy, isn't that at the heart of what we're hoping for our young people. That we can actually reduce the instances of bullying. That we can actually bring down the instances of violence and threatening behaviour against each other that we're seeing on the rise in our schools. And that we can prepare young people to go out into the world capable of building strong relationships with smart people, to be able to be creative and collaborate around solving some of the world's biggest problems. The third thing I think we get is we get connected communities. Now, why is that important when our focus should be pretty singularly on student learning? Well, what it does is it's that enabler. And we have to think also about, when as a school, what's the place of a school in our society, and what's the place of a school in our community, and what's the cost of not focusing on our place in a community? Eminent author Robert K. Greenleaf, I think, put it pretty well when he said that where there is not community, trust, respect and ethical behaviour are hard for the young to learn and difficult for the old to maintain. And I think that really hits on the head the three areas that I think can make a difference. But you know what? We really can't just rest on our laurels that these sound like nice aspirational things to bring into our school. We really need to be able to prove that those schools that go deep and go hard, like I'm recommending to you, actually do get some success. So let's look around the world a little bit about what's been happening with restorative practices over the last decade or so, with schools that have made a genuine commitment in this area. We've had schools in the US, for instance, where a whole district of schools took on the idea of embedding restorative practices deeply. What they found instantly was over a 12-month period of 15% drop in suspensions. One particular high school in that area was keeping some fantastic stats on discipline referrals, so students who were misbehaving in school. And over a 2-year period, those discipline referrals dropped from an annual average of 913 a year down to 516 a year. Now, if we look a little closer to home, there are schools in Australia that have been collecting data about about teachers who've been telling us whether they've been the subject of threatening behaviour in their school. Over a 2-year period, one school in Australia, by implementing restorative practices, had 56% of teachers at the start reporting that they had been subjected to threatening behaviour, and in a 2-year period that came down to 24%. A school district in Canada that decided across its schools to implement restorative practices brought down student suspensions by 80%. And there's been a fantastic study done globally, districts around the world that have focused on recidivist behaviour. Now that means about repeat offenders. And don't we know in schools that the kids who keep repeating the difficult behaviours and the challenging behaviours end up taking up so much of our time that could be otherwise spent on improving student learning for the broader population. Now, what they found was that the implementation of restorative practices is around 5.5 times more effective in reducing recidivist behaviour than a punitive approach. And even when we combine all of the other approaches together, restorative practices is still around 63% more effective than bringing down recidivist behaviour. Now, to me, that's too compelling a case for us to avoid any longer, and indeed I believe too compelling a case for you to avoid any longer. If you'd like to partner with us around building restorative practices into your school, then let's for once do it right. Let's not treat it like a drop and run PD. Let's build a genuine partnership so that you can start to get those three outcomes and you can start to actually exponentially improve student learning as a result. you might just reduce your own stress levels along the way. I'm looking forward to hearing from you.